Hey family, Pastor B here. Welcome to my kitchen. I'm excited to spend some time with you today. I've got a devotion the Lord has placed on my heart for you. I pray that you're encouraged by it. And then today, I'm going to teach you how to make Cajun macaroni and cheese. We're going to bake it. It's amazing. You're going to love this. It's a great, great family dish. I'm going to show you how to put it together. Okay family, here we go. Cajun macaroni and cheese. So this is basically my riff on a basic baked macaroni and cheese. You guys know I love all things Southern, Cajun, Creole, anything that I can just spice up it a little bit, put a kick into, that's what we're about. So the recipe's on the website as always. So we're gonna start with some butter. And what we're gonna essentially do to begin here is we are gonna make a classic roux. And a roux basically is just butter and flour, or you can use oil and flour. So whatever fat you wanna use. If I was making gumbo, this would be oil. But because I'm making macaroni and cheese, you don't want a lot of heavy oil taste. So we're gonna use some unsalted butter. We're gonna let that melt. This is the same pan that I sauteed the andouille sausage, bell pepper, and green onion. I'll show you that mixture in a minute. Basically just a little olive oil, threw everything in on medium heat, little salt and pepper to taste, let that get cooked through and tender. And so I'm using the same pan. It's a one pan deal. Here we go. We're going to add some all-purpose flour. And what we're going to do now is we're just going to essentially stir this in. This is creating the roux. R-O-U-X, roux. We're going to let this cook. We want to cook out that flour taste. You don't ever want to just kind of go with this right away. You want to give this about 2 to 3 minutes to begin to cook through, and the flour will incorporate with the fat, but you won't taste the flour. Now what we're also going to do at this point is we're going to add our Cajun seasoning. So this is a Cajun seasoning blend, and this is 1 tablespoon of that. I'm going to go ahead and add that directly to our roux. Reason I'm doing that and not adding it later is this roux is ultimately going to be the cheese sauce. That's the primary component for macaroni and cheese, and that way the Cajun seasoning is fully incorporated and you really taste it in every aspect of the baked macaroni and cheese. All right, I'm gonna let this cook for about 2 minutes and then we'll keep going from there. Okay, so we've allowed this roux to develop for about 2 to 3 minutes. And now I've turned the heat up slightly and I'm gonna begin. We've got 3 cups of milk. I'm gonna add 2 cups to start. About a cup that we'll add towards the end. You know, honestly, you can use the same ingredients. It's a funny thing, from one dish to one dish, and yet sometimes the process just comes out a little bit different. So I'm just going to go ahead and now let this milk incorporate with our flour. I'm going to turn the heat up. Whenever you're adding a thickener to, as an example, for a cream sauce or anything like that, you're never going to fully know how thick the sauce is until you've brought it to a boil. And that's going to be the maximum thickness in terms of consistency for that sauce. So what I like to do is bring it up to a boil, let that get really thick, and then I can know, wow, do I want that a little creamier? Is it just right? And we can move from there. So we're gonna let this go for about 2 more minutes, and then we'll check on it, we'll add some more milk, and then we'll add the cheese. Okay guys, so we've let this go for about 2 minutes. You can see that, boy, that roux is really doing its job with the milk. It's starting to thicken. And so what we're going to do now is we're going to go ahead and add that last cup of milk. We know that we're going to need that for sure. All right. We're going to turn it down just slightly now because we know that we're basically at our thickness. Let that milk just kind of incorporate now. Wow, that looks great. It smells fantastic in here. Cajun spice mix is so cool. It's got salt, pepper, it's got some garlic powder in there. There's usually some chili powder. There's some cayenne. It's a great buy ahead. Of course, you can make your own. There's recipes online where you can make your own, or you can just buy it. Taste it a little bit before you put it into any ingredient if it's a new spice mix, because some seem a little saltier than others, and that way you can kind of gauge where to go from there. Okay, so now we've got our cheese ready to go. We've got about 3 cups of sharp cheddar cheese that I'm just going to go ahead and add right in. And now we're going to stir this until the cheese is fully melted and incorporated into our milk. What I've done ahead of time, family, is I went ahead and cooked off a pound of elbow macaroni. Salted water, always salt your water if you're cooking pasta. So I salted some boiling water, added the macaroni, basically cook it to the box. I think it's about 7 or 8 minutes or so. You can leave it a little more on the al dente side because we're gonna also bake this dish, so you don't have to worry about that. So I already cooked that, that's ready to go. I've already buttered a casserole dish. We've got a few things already in place here. Okay, so this cheese is perfect. That's exactly what you want. It's cheesy, but it's still very loose because we're going to be incorporating all the rest of our ingredients into it. Okay, so at this point, I'm going to add a few dashes of hot sauce. You know, anything Cajun Creole, for me, it's always going to be Crystal. If you don't want to add this, shame on you. I mean, do what you want to do, that's fine. But I love that hot sauce in there. It just adds a little bit of a tang and a little kick in there as well. All right, now we're going to add our macaroni. Okay, so we're just going to fold this right in. This macaroni was already cooked off. Okay, so it's a little firm, but it'll come right out into our dish. We're going to turn the heat down just slightly at this point. We're going to incorporate our macaroni into the cheese mixture. All right. We're also going to add now, this is our sauteed andouille sausage, red bell pepper, and green onion with just a little bit of salt and pepper. The andouille isn't super spicy, but it's really flavorful. Just such great flavor on that sausage. The bell pepper adds a little sweetness, a little great color. Of course, the green onion. I don't like to go with like necessarily a regular white or a red onion. I think the green onion is mild and it actually adds some great color to this dish as well. Okay, here we go. And now I'm just incorporating everything. Really get down to the bottom of the Dutch oven or the pan or pot that you're using, because that's where all that yummy melted cheese is. Wow, does that look amazing? You could literally just eat this now. But we're gonna bake this. So if you chose just to stop here, go for it. Man, just put this in a bowl and enjoy. But we're gonna go ahead and bake this off. Okay. All right. Let me show you how to finish it up. Okay, family, so we've got everything incorporated. You'll see on the recipe that we want to preheat our oven to 350 degrees. We've got a casserole dish here that I've lightly buttered. We've got some remaining cheese and the breadcrumb mixture. All that's on the recipe. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go ahead and just lift this pot, and we're going to just pour this macaroni and cheese, nice and easy. Basically, going to fill this casserole dish. Don't be scared. It's all going to work. Then I'll just use a spoon, just get this last little bit. We're gonna make sure that we level this out. Oh my gosh, this looks amazing. All right, here we go. So now we're just gonna level this out. We're gonna pack it down a little bit so it's, the reason we're doing that isn't so much for the look or the symmetry of the pan, but so that everything is cooked here. Okay, so now to finish this off, I've got about a half a cup of the same shredded sharp cheddar cheese that I used for the mixture itself. And you can skip this part if you want, but I recommend it. It just gives that little extra cheesiness over the top. It's about a half a cup or so. And then I've got some buttered breadcrumbs. So basically I melted some butter, added breadcrumbs to it, and then we're gonna just lightly spoon this over the top, spreading it out so that every area of the macaroni and cheese has the same amount of breadcrumb. This is also going to add a little color to the top, right? Those are going to brown up nicely because of the butter. If it was just the breadcrumbs, they could have potential to burn. The butter is actually what's going to give it that nice brown color as it cooks in the oven. And there's also some great flavor that comes from this. All right, family, so now I'm gonna pop that in the oven, about 15 to 20 minutes. Just keep an eye on it. What you're gonna see is that it's gonna start to bubble up, the top is gonna get brown, and then we'll pull it out and we'll taste it. Okay, family, well, guess what? I've got a very special guest in the kitchen with me today. My very beautiful and very pregnant daughter-in-law, Christina. Christina, would you like to try the Cajun macaroni and cheese?
Yes.
All right, there you go.
Right. Thank you. So good. It's delicious.
You can have
Amazing.
that.
Thank you.
Hey, family. Glad to spend these moments with you today. You know, it's a challenging time that we're living in. It's difficult to stay positive where there's so many negative things that are swirling around, and it seems like every time that we turn around there's bad news. There's also that inevitable unknown that just seems to be kind of lingering over us of what's going to happen, what might happen. And that can cause us, I think, if we're not careful, to really be overwhelmed by worry and anxiety. And of course we know that's not God's heart for us. So I want to talk to you a little bit today about worry. What is worry? Well, I've got a definition for you, and it's that worry is giving way to anxiety or unease, allowing one's mind to dwell on difficulty or troubles. Now, we all know that anxiety and unease can very much be a part of life, just in a normal setting, let alone what we're going through right now. There are always going to be things that we can't control. We also know that difficulty and troubles are part of life. We wish they weren't, but they are. Even Jesus told his disciples in John 16, "I have told you these things so that in me you may have peace. In this world you will have trouble, but take heart, I have overcome the world." So anxiety, difficult circumstances, challenging things that we go through, health crisis, and so many more are on those list of things that we can't control. They're going to happen, but that's not really the issue. Let's look again at that definition of worry. Worry is giving way to anxiety or unease. Worry is allowing one's mind to dwell on difficulty or troubles. So I think that's where the problems lie. What do we do when we feel anxious? What do we do when we're overwhelmed or worried about what might happen, things that we can't control? Well, I'm glad you asked. Today I want to invite you to join me in Philippians chapter 4, verse 4. And it reads, "Rejoice in the Lord always, and again I say it, rejoice. Let your gentleness be evident to all, for the Lord is near. And do not be anxious about anything, but in every situation, by prayer and petition, with thanksgiving, present your requests to God. And the peace of God, which transcends all understanding, will guard your hearts and your minds in Christ Jesus." In verse 8, "Finally, brothers and sisters, whatever is true, whatever is noble, whatever is right, whatever is pure, whatever is lovely, whatever is admirable, and if anything is excellent or praiseworthy, think about such things. Whatever you have learned or received or heard from me or seen in me, put it into practice. The God of peace will be with you." So I want to give you 4 quick keys to overcoming worry and anxiety from this passage. Number 1, choose joy. I love how Paul begins that passage by saying, "Rejoice in the Lord always, and again I say rejoice." That doesn't mean that we're to find joy in every circumstance, but we can always find joy in the Lord. Rejoice. I think of it like rejoy. Find joy again. Choose joy again. Because one thing that I've learned is that joy has to be contended for, has to be fought for. There's so many things that want to rob us of our joy. And so Paul is saying, choose joy again. Remind yourself of how good God is and how good he's been to you. Number 2, talk to God about what you're facing. God cares about you. He's not obligated to care about you. He loves you. He delights in being there for you. And when you and I bring our prayers before the Lord, do you know that he's also honored that we trust him with those requests? Nothing is impossible. Nothing is too big. He's never overwhelmed by what we're going through. None of it's a surprise to him. So talk to God. Just in the same kind of conversation you'd have with anybody in your life that you love and trust, and see how that's going to bless you. 1 Peter 5:7 rather says, cast all your anxiety on him because he cares for you. Number 3, change your focus. Paul says, instead of worrying about what you can't control, instead of just being fixated on the thing that is making you anxious, instead think about these things. Number 1, what is true? Now, you might say, yeah, this is what's true. I'm not talking about the facts of your life. I'm saying what is true about God and what he says about your situation. And that causes us to go into his word, doesn't it? But think about the things that are true. What is pure and lovely? Get your mind off the negativity of the world and the things that are going around, even the lie of the enemy, and edify yourself in the Spirit. Listen to some worship music. Get outside and enjoy the beauty of God's creation. What is pure? What is lovely? Spend time with your family. Read a good book. What is pure and what is lovely? What is something that's positive right now? Find something that is positive that you can think about. Negativity will always seek to rob you of your joy, cause you to be overwhelmed with stuff that is not too big for God. I think that negativity is a really slippery slope. I know it always has been for me. It leads to judgment, criticism, anger, and even depression. And then the 4th point, practice your faith. Paul says, whatever you have seen in me, heard in me, watched in me, put it into practice. Friends, I think that so many Christians never reach their potential because they don't stand in faith long enough to see God move. They can't wait for God, and they step in, and then they only get the result of their own efforts. So be patient, stay the course, don't give up, don't give in. Help is on the way. God is with us and for us. Trust in him and don't let worry have its anchor or its effect in your life. I love you so much. I'm praying for you. I'll see you next time.